Good morning. And it is a good morning. Any morning that we are together is a good morning. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Riverside. Our opening hymn this morning is number 1007. There's a river flowing in my soul, from the Teal hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 1007. There's a river flowing in my soul. Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for our virtual attendees. I'm Nick Williams, a member of the worship committee, and I will be your worship associate today. Other members of the worship committee you will hear from who make this service possible include Alec Peck, our music coordinator, Adam Whittaky, who monitors our visual and online connections, and Kate Lewicki, who is in charge of our sound system. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart and a muted electronic device. We invite you to leave your worries and defenses at the door and trust that what happens in worship is inspiring and powerful. Together, we affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser as we begin a new day and a new week. Before we begin, we ask you to join us in a moment of silence for the devastating conflicts occurring in the world today, as we pray and hope for peace and justice. In the words of Archbishop Elder Kamara, without justice and love, peace will always be a great illusion. Thank you. March is Women's History Month, an annual observance to highlight the contributions of women to events in history and contemporary society. National Women's History Month 2024 celebrates women who advocate for equity, diversity, and inclusion. The theme recognizes women throughout the country who work to eliminate bias and discrimination from our lives and institutions. Today's service will focus on 3 women who made major contributions in the field of science. Before we move into the service, there are a few announcements we would like to share. We'll mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all this information, and it is available on our website. The monthly UUCR newsletter comes out the first of every other month by email and per request by postal mail. If you have something newsworthy or that you would like to contribute, email uuchurchofriverside.calendar@gmail.com or call the church office at 951-686-6515. If you would like to be added to our mailing list, please contact the church office. Our first Sunday luncheon will be served after the service. Today's theme is a variety of casseroles. Contributions are appreciated and will be donated to the church fund. Next Sunday, March 10th, we will be springing forward and setting our clocks 1 hour ahead. The bad news, we lose an hour of sleep. The good news, we gain an hour of daylight. See you bright and early next Sunday. Our lunch series continues with the St. Patrick's Day luncheon on March 16th at 1:30 p.m. There will be good food and good fellowship. Suggested donation is $25 per person or sweat equity, $12 for children 6 to 12, and free for ages 5 and under. This event is advance purchase only, and all proceeds will go to the church fund. A discussion on the ongoing peace series will be held today the peace series will be held today from 12 to 1 p.m. in the sanctuary following the luncheon. All are invited to attend and participate in the question and answer session. Church Council will meet on the second Friday of the month in the annex. The next meeting will be at 4 p.m. on March 8th. Women's Fed. The next Women's Fed meeting will be on Saturday, March 9th at 1 p.m. in the parish hall. Everyone is welcome. This month, Tinka and Nick will be sharing experiences from their recent trip to Florence, Italy. Please bring light refreshments to share. Our annual pledge drive is right around the corner. On Sunday, March 24th, after the service, there will be a discussion about our goals for next year, followed by lunch. Please RSVP by email to admin@ uucrchurchofriverside.org by Thursday, March 21st, or by phone 951-686-6515. Please look for an email with information about the pledge luncheon. Last but not least, vote, vote, vote. If you haven't already, be sure to vote by Tuesday. You can even vote on Tuesday. And now our call to worship. I invite you to sit back, take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. You are welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. Today's presentation was written by UUCR member Alec Peck. Alec Peck has been a practicing UU for 23 years and has a deep passion for the intellectual and spiritual challenges which arise from exploring the 6 sources of our living tradition. He was raised a UU church, chosen by his father, raised Quaker, and mother, raised Jewish, though both humanists in practice. Alec recently spent 2 years studying natural science at Creighton University, a Jesuit institution, and is now completing his PhD at UC Riverside. Since even before the dawn of science, humankind has sought to understand the natural world and our place in it. We have used disciplines of study, evidence, and math to reveal the great wonders of our world. But the practice of science has carried with it the same prejudice which science itself has shown to be unfounded. Today, we honor some of the women who shaped the course of science, but whose contributions are often overlooked. We will hear the stories of 3 women and the amazing knowledge they brought to us: Rosalind Franklin and the discovery of DNA, Ada Lovelace, humanity's first computer scientist, and Emmy Noether's theorems, which are the backbone of all modern physics. Occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. We have 2 lightings of sacred flames. The first is the Occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. The second is the lighting of our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We walk upon the traditional territories of diverse and sovereign peoples, the original people of this land. They continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot we occupy was first the sacred space of several groups of indigenous peoples, including the Cahuilla, the Campano, and the Serrano. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as the stewards of the sacred and holy place. We are blessed with a space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let those who carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Let those thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Chalice lighting. Today's reading for the chalice lighting is Alive in All Creation by Sherry Woodbury. Speak of the Spirit, cupped in earth's embrace, light of love, alive in all creation. And we kindle this flame, we rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life. We have a tradition at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors, perhaps returning after some time away. We know it can be perhaps a little uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others. And so I will now ask for a volunteer from someone who has been here a while to tell us your name and how you found that out about our church. We ask you to step close to the microphone and speak into it directly and clearly so everyone can hear. Be aware that we will be visible on our Zoom camera and in the recording of this service, which is posted online. Do we have a church? Oh, yes, there you are. So please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Maggie Williams. I guess I could jump the gun coming down here so soon. I've been a member of this church. Well, I've been a member of the UU church for a long time, since high school days, but I've been a member of this church since 2006. And when I retired, I moved to Redlands, and I wanted to find the nearest UU church to me, and that turned out to be here. So I learned how to come into Riverside and found this church. And I am very happy. I have not always been present recently. I've had a few, well, never mind. I've been a little, days when I wasn't here. But anyway, I'm glad every time I come. I'm so grateful. And I guess that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. That's how it's done. If you are new here, a visitor or an old friend, please raise your hand to stand and come up to the mic in front of the pulpit. Please step close to the mic, speak clearly, and tell us your name, please.
Good morning. Closer. All right. Good morning. My name is Kevin Chung, and I'm here with my wife, June. We are from Riverside, so we live not too far away. We were members of other churches, mostly pre-COVID, and then now we're sort of coming back and finding out and questioning our personal beliefs and finding our own truths, I suppose.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're in the right place. Anyone else who would like to come down? Introduce yourself. I see some people kind of talking to each other, trying to encourage themselves. Here we go.
Hi, my name is Kristen. I grew up in Riverside, so I've been here for a very long time. I've been pagan for a while, but in this area, in a lot of areas, it doesn't really come with a lot of community. So I've been looking for a space to find some of that. So that's why I'm here.
Welcome. All right. Has anyone else made the decision? Yes, please. I knew all you needed was a little encouragement there.
Hello, everyone. My name's Enrique. This is my partner, Ivan. We both come from religious backgrounds and have stopped going to church for a while for various reasons. And we're here to kind of find community again. And yeah, we attended actually a service for a friend who was a UU member. And being there at that service was really nice to see the sort of principles by which she lived by and she was taught by in the church. And we thought it'd be a good time now to, after passing by during so many art walks, to actually come and attend a service. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Dana, and I was raised in the UU church. Bill is my dad. I'm out here visiting them, and they guilted me into coming to church.
Good deal. All right.
No, I actually
Old
volunteered.
time religion.
But I've been in this building several times. This is the first time I've ever been to church here. Attended Zoom a couple times, I think. So anyway, it's good to be here.
Thank you. Welcome. Welcome. Anyone else would like to come up? Okay, do we have anyone online that has raised their hand?
Yeah.
Bob? Vaughn. Yes, Vaughn.
My name is Vaughn Hargrave. I'm in Whittier currently, but I've attended UU churches since my days in Richmond, Virginia. I've belonged to many churches over the years and across the country. Thank you.
Welcome. Anyone else, Adam? All right, thank you. For any other new guests, please join us for socializing and coffee hour after the service. We'd love to chat with you out in the parish hall, where you also can find a visitor's book. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know you were here, and leave your contact information if you want to know about upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. We also have a rack out there, and it has many pamphlets in it. They're free for the taking. If you are unfamiliar with our church and our, then please feel free to take whatever you would like. That's how my wife and I first got here, was we saw some pamphlets. Joys and concerns. It is said that shared joy is a double joy. Shared sorrow is half sorrow. On the first Sunday of each month, we share the joys and concerns that we have received from you, which you have collected throughout the month. First, I'm going to read the joys and concerns which were given to us. A joy. My roommate started a new job recently. Concern that she's not being trained properly. Another joy. Robert's partner, Steve, was named Employee of the Month in February. Hooray. If there's anyone here in the sanctuary who would like to speak their joy or concern, please raise your hand. We will invite you to speak here at the microphone. Linda, step close to the mic. Tell them your name.
Hi, my name is Linda Van Voris. This is a concern for my husband, Dave. About 3 weeks ago, he was out in the desert trying to communicate with people who were riding their motorcycles where they shouldn't. He is working with a legitimate BLM crew, and they offer pamphlets and information to where they could ride. And he had an aggressive person push him heavily to the ground, and he ended up with a broken arm. He is doing much better now, but please keep him in your thoughts. Thank you.
Wait a minute, Linda. Wait a minute. Is there someone online? Okay, Linda, would you place a stone in our water chalice to represent the joys and concerns we have shared with our church community and in recognition of those we hold close who have not shared? Thank you. May we remember those who have spoken, those who've been named, and those we hold in silence in our hearts. Our hymn now is number 112, Do You Hear, from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing number 112, Do You Hear?
Do you hear, oh my friend, in the place where you stand, through the sky, through the land? Do you hear, in the height on the plain, in the vale on the brain, in the sun, in the rain? Do you hear, through the roar, through the rush, through the throng, through the crush? Do you hear in the hush of your soul, hear the cry, fear will still, hear the heart throb to will, hear a sigh, startling trill, in your soul, in your soul. From the place where you stand to the outermost strand, do you hear, oh my friend? Do you hear, all the dreams, all the dares, all the sighs, all the prayers, they are yours, mine and theirs. Do you hear, Do you hear, oh my friend, in the phrase, in the space, through the sky, through the sky? Do you hear, in the heights, in the height, on the plain, in the vale, in the sun, in the sun? Do you hear?
Thank you. Please be seated. This portion of our service is to support a beloved historical church. This can be accomplished several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is shown here, as well as on the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we will have in the church each Sunday. Amazon gift cards are also available. You get the full value, and the church also receives a percentage for free. Please see Dinah Rowe or Robert Braun in our church office if you're interested in purchasing the gift cards. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. To those who give of their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. And to all of you who have joined us today, thank you for the gift of your presence. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? A bag will also be available to collect food and hygiene items for those in need. Our next hymn is number 402, From You I Receive, from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 402, From You I Receive.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share from this sweet gift. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share from this sweet gift. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
It's now time for our meditation, Prayer for This Day by Adam Slate. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit of hope, Spirit of justice, you have given us a day unique from any other. You have connected us, all of us, with each other and with the world in ways that are largely a mystery to us. You have given us little instruction other than to be present in our own lives, to feel wonder at the creations of the universe, and to love one another. You have put gifts and challenges in our paths, joys and sorrows, strengths and frailty, some of which we have already encountered and others we have yet to discover. On this unique day, may we receive exactly what it is that we need. Amen. Madame Marie Curie is certainly the most well-known woman for our scientific work. Her scientific work, not ours. Sorry. This is understandable as she was the first woman to receive a Nobel Prize, 1903 physics, and the first person to be awarded a second time in a different field, 1911 chemistry. She was the only person to hold that distinction until 1962, when Linus Pauling was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize. His previous one had been in 1954 in chemistry. But of course, there are actually many other women who are just as important to the course of history and just as important as Mendel, Turing, or Einstein. 65 females have been awarded Nobel Prizes. These women and thousands of other women succeeded despite an entire society pressuring them to fail. For Women's History Month, today we'll give some attention to 3 female scientists who often go unknown or uncredited due to those same pressures. Now we'd like to introduce 3 UUCR members speaking to us on pioneers of science, women who shaped history. Linda Van Voris, reading as Rosalind Franklin. Grace Preuss, reading about Ada Lovelace. Tinka Friend, reading about Emmy Noether.
Okay.
Oh, here's the, oh, wow. Okay, that's. Yeah. Okay, all right.
Oops, you're fine.
Mhm.
Thank you. Little education. I'm not used to a computer like this. I use a tablet mostly. So I use my fingers. Ada Lovelace, born 1815, died 1852. Nowadays, we take our computers for granted. And we think of things computers do. We think of emails and texts, amazing CGI graphics in movies, and enormous databases of information about even the most niche subjects. Of course, that's not what computers were originally, and their origins in the Industrial Revolution could have been very different if not for the revolutionary work of Ada Lovelace. In the days of steam engines, before electricity was of practical use, a machine was made to be a single-purpose device, built to perform and mechanicize a single task. A man named Charles Babbage had designed one of these machines to do division. Looking up log tables was the fastest way to do division without the machine he was about to invent. Essentially, an automated abacus. He was also working in secret on a much more powerful machine, his so-called analytical engine. This machine could be given an almost unlimited range of instructions instead of hard-coded for a single task. However, Babbage was thin-skinned and quick-tempered, bad at finishing projects, and a bad communicator. Hence, he kept his analytical engine design a secret. When Ada happened upon his unpublished notes about the machine, she immediately recognized its potential and importance, even more than he could. She had received extensive formal education due to her famous lineage, though not the kind that was typical for young girls at her time. Her father, Lord Byron, was the Victorian equivalent of Charlie Sheen or Joe Exotic, all drugs, sex, and Victorian poetry. Ada's mother would determine that her daughter would not fall into the same passions, and so her education focused on the exact sciences. Ada had already become friends with Babbage, so when she saw his notes on the theoretical analytical engine, she told him she could not only understand how it could be programmed, but also that she could translate and clean up the unpresentable notes on the engine. By the time she was done adding her own annotations, the paper was 3 times the original length, enough to be the first author by today's standards. The notes she added completely changed how we thought about what such a computer can do. The technology was partially inspired by automated Girard loom, which could be given weaving pattern instructions on punch cards. Ada saw the unlimited potential of this ability, saying, the analytical engine weaves algebraic patterns, just as a Girard loom weaves flowers and leaves. This was a revolution that changed the course of the computer science. Like computers can use numbers to represent things other than numbers, like pictures or music, and that a very clever program could be written for a single machine to do it all. In her first note in the paper, she theorizes, supposing, for instance, that the fundamental relations of pitched sounds in science of harmony or musical composition were susceptible of such expression and adaptations. The engine might compose elaborate and scientific pieces of music of any degree of complexity or extent. This comment foresaw the future of computer development, including even what we are seeing today. Babbage had hard-coded his previous machines, but had not written a program for his general-purpose computer to follow. In her now famous Note G, Ada describes the first ever program for a general-purpose computer, which could be used to calculate the Bernoulli numbers. Keep in mind, the analytical engine had not yet even been built. Ada had written the first ever computer program without a computer to even use. Alan Turing, the first father of computer science, was partially inspired by Ada's paper, making her, in some sense, a grandmother of computer science. Even today, the programming language Ada named after her is used in aviation, military applications, and situations with critical safety concerns. While working with Babbage, Ada had become friends with Mary Somerville, the first woman to become a member of the Royal Astronomical Society in London. The legend of women in computer science and astronomy is rich. Like Margaret Hamilton, who wrote the first code for NASA's Apollo missions, and Vera Rubin, who observed the first evidence of dark matter. These fields have historically been more accessible to women since they were seen as less rigorous than the pure sciences like biology or math. Even Ada was told she could not study science because women were not strong enough. Ada had exactly the skills which Babbage lacked to get his analytical engine into the world. Strength and gentleness are equally important, but what skills are considered valuable was often dictated by the men who were in charge. Ada was educated in math and science because of the oddity of her parents. Given the chance to solve a scientific problem, she showed she had the intellect to do it. We can only guess how many other great advancements were delayed or are yet unknown simply because we didn't give people the chance. Ada believed the creative study of science can bring fulfillment, saying, "Those who learn to walk on the threshold of the unknown worlds are commonly termed par excellence. The exact sciences may then, with fair wings of imagination, hope to soar further into the unexplored amidst which we live." Ada died at the age of 36 from uterine cancer. The second Tuesday of October is designated as Ada Lovelace Day, an international day celebrating the achievements of women in science, technology, engineering, and math.
The next woman scientist that we are going to talk about is Rosalind Franklin, 1920 to 1958. Rosalind Franklin is probably the second most well-known female figure in science. The discoveries she made enabled almost all modern biology and helped explain Darwin's theories of evolution. The scientific and medical impact of her discovery cannot be understated. Rosalind lived in a time when women were now being accepted as students at scientific institutions, but her father was strongly against women receiving higher education. She was able to attend one of the few girls' schools in London, which gave classes in physics and chemistry, and ultimately went to college to study crystallography against her father's wishes. Rosalind learned of a new technique which used X-rays to see the shape of extremely small objects, smaller than the visible microscopes could make out. In that time, she looked at the microscopic structure of coal molecules and virus cells. This background led her to be invited to King's College in London to work with the DNA research group. Biologists at the time were just taking advantage of new microscope technology to probe some of their most eluding puzzles. They knew there must be something that controlled the various mechanics of life. How do we get sick? How do cells reproduce and duplicate? And what controls the evolution of a species from one generation to the next? At the time, the idea of a gene was just that, an idea that some kind of information passes from parent to child. It was not known to relate to any physical thing, and no one knew how these mysterious genes might actually pass from one to another. Ultimately, unlocking the secret to DNA would allow for the development of vaccines and medicines and give a solid physical foundation for microevolution. The problem is, we can't actually see DNA, and it is an extremely complex molecule that somehow encodes information on how every part of our body works. Years later, Rosalind had written an afterthought from an experiment in her notebook. Geometrical basis for inheritance? Question mark. To make clean scientific images from X-ray diffraction, one needs a careful hand in order to fine-tune the equipment with great precision. After hours of exposing her camera to X-rays, shining through a solution of DNA, Rosalind created this now famous image called photograph number 51, which was later called the most beautiful X-ray photograph of any substance ever taken. Rosalind was still working through the long list of possible structures to find a match to her image when she joined a different research group at a new university. Meanwhile, in a nearby lab, Watson and Crick were also working on the DNA puzzle. Their boss, Dr. John Randall, was one of Dr. Franklin's colleagues, and she was familiar with both of their work. Watson had seen the double helix pattern from other work in the past, so when Randall showed him Dr. Franklin's diffraction image, he was soon able to put together the final pieces of the puzzle. Watson and Crick later admitted that they only looked for the double helix because they had Rosalind's data, and that they realized she was only weeks away from making the same discovery herself in her list of possible matches. But Watson and Crick never cited Dr. Franklin's work or role in their publication. Both Watson's and Crick's supervisors knew about the stolen data, but seemed to feel that giving her credit was not more important than their own claim to fame. Between Watson, Crick, and their bosses, this was a true modern conspiracy. Rosalind was known for vocally calling people out for their misbehavior. She was often serious about her work, insensitive and impatient, common stereotypical traits for nerds, but ones which are much less acceptable for women to perform. If she had known about her data being stolen, she would have been furious, but she passed away shortly after moving to her new university at the age of 37. Her exposure to X-rays for her work likely contributed to her developing ovarian cancer. Her work was overshadowed by Watson and Crick in what Dr. Howard Markold calls one of the most egregious ripoffs in the history of science, and it was not because of their respective merits. Science, going back to the cult of Pythagoras, has a long legacy of attributing the discoveries of many hardworking people to a single person, often the rich aristocrat funding the group. Scientists who found themselves at the bottom of that hierarchy would not be credited for their work. And since women tended to be below men in the social hierarchy, their contributions often went unnoticed. Science experiments and theories have no relation to the gender of the scientist, but our access to science is still bound by societal oppressions.
Emmy Noether, born 1882, died 1935. Emmy Noether was born to a Jewish family in Germany in 1882. Even as a teenager, she had expressed a desire to study mathematics, and much like young girls today, already had a fight in an uphill battle for respect. She did not have the good fortune of being born into, she did have the good fortune of being born into a family of mathematicians. But girls were not allowed to attend college preparatory schools, and instead she had to go to a general finishing school for girls. Despite not being able to study her passion, she was always optimistic and joyful and often enjoyed dancing and joking with colleagues. Emmy instead focused her intellect on the study of languages. She became qualified to teach French and English at schools for young women. However, these pursuits did not seem totally fulfilling, as at work she often seemed distracted, as if by a voice that only she could hear. Women were not allowed to take classes at the German colleges, but still undeterred and boosted by her optimism, Emmy decided to simply audit the courses, taking them for no credit on her own time. As a woman, she was only allowed to sit in because of her connection to the university through her father, who taught there. In 1904, the German institutions suddenly began admitting women as students, and supported by the amazing quality of her work, Emmy immediately passed the entrance exam and was earning her doctorate at the Mathematical Institute of Erlangen, which is in Bavaria. While at Erlangen and later the University of Göttingen, which is near Nuremberg, she quickly gained the friendship and admiration of famous mathematical giants of the 20th century, Hilbert, Weyl, Minkowski, and Klein among them. But even with a doctorate, women were still not allowed to work as lecturers. One faculty member protested, "What will our soldiers think when they return to the university and find out that they are required to learn at the feet of a woman?" She again took advantage of the connection to her father and substituted for him as a loophole for lecturers on algebra. Her father was frequently ill. Her new college, David Hilbert, advocated for her to receive a fair pay, saying in a letter to the university that he did not see how gender was relevant, as, in his words, "After all, we are a university, not a bathhouse." He was ultimately unsuccessful, and Emmy worked unpaid as an unofficial lecturer for 3 years in his classes. Eventually, she was given a petty salary as an assistant professor, despite being recognized as the most clever mind in the mathematics department. She would quickly gain a collection of eager students who were called the Noether Boys, with whom she would have intense discussions lasting hours into the night over desserts. Then in 1915, a man named Albert Einstein came up with a miraculous theory of how gravity can be thought of as the curvature of space-time. Einstein's exact part in developing the theory of general relativity was certainly important, but Einstein's specialty was thought experiments, and he learned only barely enough math to demonstrate his ideas. For mathematicians like Minkowski, Hilbert, and Noether, Einstein's ideas were incompatible,
and left subtle puzzles that Einstein did not have the mathematical tools to address. Conservation of energy was and is a critical component of all physics, but his new general relativity seemed to violate this law. The solution that Emmy and her colleagues came up with used some obscure tricks, but ultimately it came down to one main concept. If energy is not constant, then what is the thing which is invariant? That thing that never changes despite all the transformations around it. Emmy discovered the correct invariance to solve Einstein's problems and a method for finding new variants. The answer was symmetry. In short, Emmy noticed that wherever you find symmetry, there is lurking some conserved property. Symmetry begets invariance. This led to a more general insight to what we now call Noether's currents, the ebb and flow demanded by symmetry to preserve the invariance. This discovery was made to explain Einstein's theories for objects that are very, very big, but years later, the theorem became a central theorem for quantum mechanics called Noether's theorem, the theory for objects that are very, very small. Physicists found that the currents would explain, Noether's currents would explain why particles have the properties that they do and why they even exist in the first place. This is the theorem that Higgs used to predict the eponymous boson, called by some the God particle, for which he received the Nobel Prize in 2012. It is not far from the truth to say that her theorem explains literally everything. Now, algebra is already frightening, a frightening and abstract topic. So abstract algebra is not something we have time to explain, nor would I be able to explain it. Alec, perhaps, maybe, but not I. Emmy's idea of currents eventually led to the development of an entire new area of mathematics. Unlike electrical currents that flow physically through space, Emmy imagined currents that instead flow through highly abstract fields of numbers. The discovery of this branch of abstract algebra was called, quote, one of the most important mathematical theorems ever proved in guiding the development of modern physics, which changed the face of algebra. This had completely revolutionized the idea of conservation, the basis for almost all of physics. After the First World War, Hilbert would sign up for classes and then forget to show up in order to allow his friend Emmy to teach them. This meant that she could continue practicing her passion, but her name would not appear in the university records. She was still being given an untenured petty salary, this after revolutionizing algebra and while still inventing new types of algebra. She published many groundbreaking papers, often under a man's name. Now, coming up to the 1930s, Emmy was still that undyingly optimist and apolitical, and so she did not immediately see the warning signs of the Third Reich. In 1932, instructors were dismissed, Jewish instructors were dismissed from academic institutions, quickly following the establishment of Hitler as the dictator. Emmy continued to teach in private in defiance, even as some of her students began showing up in Nazi brown shirts. By 1933, it was clear, even to Emmy, that life in Nazi Germany was too dangerous for a female Jewish liberal academic. When the government began to suspect her of being a social democrat and a pacifist, she knew she needed to leave Germany. Assisted by the Rockefeller Foundation, she moved to the United States. And with the help of Einstein, she began to teach at Bryn Mawr College, a women's college. She also lectured and conducted research at the Institute for Advanced Studies in Princeton, New Jersey, where Einstein was working. Emmy remarked on how much more accepting the Americans were of women studying mathematics and quickly made good friends with the other women at the college who could understand her struggle. Her colleagues described her demeanor as being, quote, warm like a loaf of bread. She would form close personal relationships with her students, helping comfort them with their personal problems. Just a couple of years after moving to the United States, Emmy's doctors found an ovarian cyst. When she went in for the operation to remove it, the doctors then found a series of tumors throughout her body, and she died shortly after from complications following surgery at age 53. Even today, it is not uncommon to hear stories of women whose medical concerns are not taken seriously and are dismissed by their doctor only to find a life-threatening disease when they get a second opinion. Stigmas against women can have life-threatening consequences, even if we are all now afforded the same rights. We hope that you have enjoyed these short biographies about these amazing women who shaped the course of history and science. There won't be a test afterwards, but hopefully you will find some of these names memorable next time you need to think of some historical female role models. Thank you. Our closing hymn is number 119, which is Once to Every Soul and Nation from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn 119, Once to Every Soul and Nation. The benediction is titled Prayer for a Drop in the Bucket by Amy Zucker Morgenstern. Blessed are the droplets, for they shall fill the bucket to overflowing. Blessed are they who know there is a bucket, for they shall be filled with hope. Blessed are they who can see beyond their lifetimes, for they shall walk in faith that their work will not be in vain. Blessed are we when we know we only appear so small because what we are creating is so big. Blessed are we who are part of one another. Blessed are we when we give new life and light to others, for we will live more richly ourselves. Blessed be. Namaste, amen, and blessed be.
Thank you, Linda, Grace, and Tinka, for sharing your valuable time and insights with us this morning. For all of them. It is sincerely appreciated, and we look forward to seeing you again. For those of you who would like to stay in the sanctuary for 10 to 15 minutes to share, not today, okay, disregard everything I just said. So please adjourn to the parish hall for snacks and lunch. Thank you for coming today. It's great to see you all. Oh.